get honest feedback from people who don't have a vested interest. I mean, the
Mhm.
people who do have a vested interest will help, like your marketing people will give you suggestions. Your financial go-to person is, of course, going to give you some suggestions on the black and white growth of the firm, the projections, where you're spending too much money, where you need to invest more, and kind of make sure that you're balancing that out and growing in lockstep with your organization. I'm a huge believer in networking, so finding really good networking opportunities
Yeah.
where the people there are your partners. They're strategic partners. You do work together. You refer work to each other, but you actually go to market together and in the trenches hand in hand. Those have been invaluable.
Hey guys, welcome to the Grow IT podcast. Your host here, Alessandro Cutri, joined today by none other than Daya Naef. We'll be diving into her story, a little bit about her company, The Success Partner, and some engaging insights into the space. So definitely make sure to stick around. But without further ado, I'll just pass it on over to you, Daya, if you don't mind just introducing yourself to the audience and telling them a little bit about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I really appreciate being a guest.
Of course.
So I work in the legal industry. I am an attorney. I practiced for about 18 years, and now I do coaching and consulting for law firms.
Hmm.
And usually that's a smaller size law firm from about 30 attorneys down to a solo practitioner who wants to operate as a law firm. And we work all over the country. I still travel quite a bit now, post pandemic. I get to go meet my clients where they are.
Hmm.
Although a lot of the meetings are virtual just for time considerations.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so how was that switch going from, being obviously attorney yourself to then obviously, working with a lot of these law firms? Like what was that, how was that switch like and what was it, what was maybe that prompted that, you to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was working in a small firm. We had three partners,
Hmm.
one of which I was married to. And when we decided to be unmarried,
Hmm.
we did operate the firm for another 2 years as partners, but things were a little bit uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And so after that, I started practicing as a solo again for about 2 years, and then I was like, I really don't want to build another firm of
Hmm.
my own.
Yeah.
And I want to do something, kind of want to do something different.
Yeah.
So I up and got trained as a coach. I went to Washington, D.C. I
Yeah.
did a life and leadership certification course that was a year long. I spent another 2 years as a trainer coach for that
Yeah.
organization. So, because can't have enough training, right?
Oh yeah. Tell me
Yeah,
about it.
I
Yeah.
know. And originally, I didn't want to do anything with lawyers. I was like, I'm sick
Uh-huh.
of lawyers. I've been represented by lawyers. I've
Yeah.
worked with lawyers. I've been against lawyers. I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
But I came to find out that there was a great need, and using my expertise in having run a firm and having practiced, and then now being trained in these other methodologies, was going to be a great asset.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's so interesting to see how you kind of like develop throughout your career and the different things that lead to different things, and then
Yeah.
you are where you are now. Obviously diving into the success partner a little bit for, your tagline here on LinkedIn is right, bringing law firms into the AI age. Like, why don't you go just dive a little bit into like, your value proposition over at, Success Partner, what you guys are really, helping these law firms do.
Yeah, I'm finding that it's a guiding process. It's a very slow guiding process, and I'm finding out with firms that they're very interested in doing something with it, but they
Mhm.
don't have the time or the resources to explore what the that is.
Yeah.
So I come in, I've always been high level strategy, in the C-suite, kind of a CEO, COO type role for the
Yeah.
time I spend with these clients. And the time I spend with them, it could be a month, it could be 36 months. It just depends on what the organization needs and is ready for.
Yeah.
But specifically in the AI space, we're doing the same sort of strategy orientation. Where do you want the firm to go? What are your pain points? What are your growth points? What's really going on? Those
Yeah.
in-depth conversations.
Hmm.
And then we're weaving in the technology to help them meet the goals of the organization.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, right? It's what, and obviously you've been inside the legal industry now for a little bit. Like, what are, some of those maybe trends that you're noticing with these law firms just by, either speaking with a lot of them or just, from being in the industry for so long? Like, what are the upcoming things that are, really hot topics?
Oh gosh, well, law has been transitioning for several years now. I'd say up to
Mhm.
about 15 years ago,
Yeah.
when other players offering legal-ish services started
Yeah.
entering the market.
Mm.
The do-it-yourself legal programs, the automated claims adjusting programs,
Hmm.
consulting companies offering a quasi-legal service, not as attorneys. Now the DIY market is huge.
Yeah.
People are going on ChatGPT and writing their own petitions and going to court. What
Yeah.
the what the fallout is going to be for that, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting. We already saw what the fallout was when just using software to do things like contracts. That in no way made a shortage of legal work later on. In fact, it
Yeah.
probably increased it quite a bit.
That's a good
So
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big trend. The automation technology is a big trend. Research. Also, even in the past like 20 years, e-discovery. So companies and cases have been required to turn over so many more
Mm.
documents.
Hmm.
There had to be a software that kept up with it.
Yeah.
Manual discovery review is almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see how always the times change, right? In terms of like, the different things that happen at one point, and then who knows what will be like in the next 5 years, right? In terms of where the law industry will be, especially with all this AI that's coming into it. You bring up a great point. I'm curious to see where we continue to go in that route itself.
Yeah.
But I did want to go back a second, Daya, just to what you guys are doing at the Success Partner. Could you like just talk about, either a couple of, maybe one or two different stories that you may have of a, you don't have to reference any names here, but just of a client that's engaged with you guys and kind of some of the, the transformation that you've taken them through and what how you've been able to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just give one of the family law firms as an example. It's a five-member firm. There is a principal and there is an associate, and we have various levels of staff people. So what we've done over the time we've worked together is really solidify the working of the staff. There was some staff turnover to make sure the right people were in the right roles.
Hmm.
There's also deciding on what we're going to do as far as longevity and partnership track. There's also an idea of maybe acquiring another firm as an expansion plan.
Yeah.
So those things we've been working out over the last few years. There's also been a rebranding, and that also goes toward the growth of the firm and
Mm.
the potential partnership track that's
Mm.
going to come out of that. Because you don't want to be the so and so attorney at law when you become a law firm.
Yeah.
So that's been very interesting, and we are now moving into the AI phase
Yeah. Yeah.
of working with that particular law firm. So setting up document management, doing petitions and drafting that will be automatic based on intake calls.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's exciting stuff, and it's such a valuable, ad, right? Because like there's so much like in terms of automation, I don't even think enough people talk about just like the amount of hours that you can save on some of these tasks, right? I'm sure is like tremendous, right? And you can put those hours that you would have to do this normal task into, other things, right? That can actually help you continue to grow the law firm. And so much of an ROI in that sense, when you get to that, even that level, in building out all those different automations there. Now, in terms of like where, like I'm curious to get your take on like, when it comes to growing, your own business, right? When it comes to actually, finding clients and going through the your own business development that you have to go through. What are some of the things that have worked well for you? Like, for in terms of like, hey, this has worked really well for me and kind of how I've been able to grow my practice or my business.
Yeah, absolutely. On the marketing side, the business development side, definitely being on podcasts is very helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you
Yes.
for the opportunity. I have launched my own podcast as well, and that has become very effective. I also love to do live speaking events. So
Mm.
putting on informational CLEs, continuing legal education for bar associations. I'm going to roll that out even more so this year. I did four live in person CLEs last year. I'm going to do more virtual and more in person CLEs, and those have had a really good, it's an investment to spend the time and money to go somewhere in person.
Definitely.
But the return on investment is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously we get a lot of CEOs and, founders of different companies and different firms that tune into this podcast itself. Like, what's something that you would, like something that's maybe helped you along the way in terms of like, going from just an idea, right? Well, obviously, when you start the company to then actually having, clients that you're helping out, like what's a piece of advice that you can give to them that's really helped you in terms of, building your company?
Yeah, absolutely. Like listen to advice, get honest feedback from people who don't have a vested interest. I mean, the people
Mhm.
who do have a vested interest will help. Like your marketing people will give you suggestions. Your financial go-to person is, of course, going to give you some suggestions on the black and white growth of the firm, the projections, where you're spending too much money, where you need to invest more, and kind of make sure that you're balancing that out and growing in lockstep with your organization.
Mhm.
I'm a huge believer in networking, so finding really good networking opportunities
Yeah,
where the people there are your partners. They're strategic partners. You do work together. You refer work to each other, and but you actually go to market together and work in the trenches hand in hand. Those have been invaluable.
definitely. Yeah. And I think that's some great advice there, right? It's always about, in essence, getting yourself out there, right? Being able to network with people, knowing who to connect with, right? Because that's what's going to open up all those doors of opportunity for you, right?
Mhm.
And as you continue to grow and kind of look out for the future, right? I don't ever like to look like too far ahead because it's hard to see, right? Like 5, 10 years, but the next like 12 months, like what does that look like for you and the success partner?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're growing our product line to include this AI strategy implementation. I have some tech partners. I'm looking for more to help with the implementation side because we're heavy on the strategy side,
Hmm.
and getting out in front of more proposals out to larger firms. So I'm never going to scale out the solo firms. I love them. They're my bread and butter. They speak to me. I've been there. So they will always have a place here. And on the same note, to grow revenue and also grow my team, which is coming in the future. Getting into where we can have a bigger impact and getting up to those firms that are, say, 30 or so attorneys.
Yeah, well, that's exciting stuff. That's exciting stuff to on
Yeah.
the horizon for you. Well, it's been a pleasure, to get a chance to dive into a little bit about your store, what you guys are doing. Definitely sounds like something unique. I mean, like the way that you've packaged it, it seems like you're offering and kind of what your experience even in being inside the industry and what you guys are doing definitely sounds like, you're on the front end of things, right? Like you're like
Yes,
leading the charge in terms of the technology revolution that we're seeing right now, right?
definitely, definitely. Yeah.
As we end here, I always like to ask like a loaded question towards the end. So I hope you don't mind.
Sure.
But if you had to maybe summarize some of the most important things that you've learned in your career, right? What would you say those things are that you'd be willing to share with the audience?
Never give up, keep
Mhm.
going. A failure is how you learn. It's
Mhm.
not the end of the game. You don't learn as much from winning as you do from having some hiccups and saying, "Oh, wow, okay, that's interesting. I'm not going to do that again." Or if I did
Yeah.
that again, I'm going to do it a totally different way.
Mhm.
And we learn, and just being a mentor and being active and listening and supporting to people who are at the same level as you,
Yeah.
and those that know more and those that know less or are newer in the game. Just staying active and staying in those conversations and being a support.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it. And I think that's the perfect note to end, Daya. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. If people are
Thank you.
listening to this and they want to hear, like, hey, what is it that you can help us out with? Or, what is it that you guys do just a little bit more in depth? What are some of the best ways to go ahead and contact you?
LinkedIn, always. You can look me under Daya Naef or under The Success Partner.
Mhm.
It's the same way. I have a website, thesuccesspartner.com, or Daya at thesuccesspartner.com for my email address.
Perfect. Well, I'll
Yeah.
include those in the descriptions for people to go reach out to you. If you guys did make it all the way to the end, we do appreciate that. And we hope you like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Make sure to go check out Daya and what they're doing over there. And we hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Take it easy. Ciao, ciao. Thanks again, Daya.